2019, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of the Farmers Supply Association Agriculture Report for 2019. I'm Randy Klepechka, agronomist with Farmers Supply Association. Just kind of a few odds and ends on this month's program. You know, it's January. During these winter months, it's always a little bit hard maybe to come up with topics as easily as it is during the growing season. But just two or three things I want to talk about this month. First, a little update on the herbicide technology issues. You know, we've last really 2 or 3 programs, or 2 out of 3, I think, I've talked about some of these herbicide technologies, some of the issues we were facing, how they impacted variety selection and that kind of thing. A couple of updates on the herbicide part of it. First, dicamba. I think I've mentioned it in an earlier program that the plant board had passed a proposal with some new dicamba regulations that would specify a May 20th cutoff for applying dicamba. It had some new buffers as far as applying the herbicide, and also had a step in there about not mixing dicamba with glyphosate, some of the new things in this new proposal. That has moved forward, and now it's in a public comment period, and I think that started in early January, and that'll go for 30 days. After that public comment period, the plant board will meet and decide whether to go through with this proposal or not. So again, we're in that public comment period, so if you've got anything you want to say about it, I'm not sure all the steps, but you can go to the plant board website and try to figure out, you know, how to handle that if you want to do something in regard to that. The next thing, another herbicide technology, the Enlist soybeans, which is 2,4-D tolerance. So that has been moving forward. The biggest sticking point has been approval from all the companies that we export to, and the big one was approved again in early January, and that's the China import approval. That's been something that's really been holding up the technology more than anything lately. But China has indicated they will approve of imports of Enlist soybeans, so you know that's going to help this technology move forward and become a player, I think. Still, some of the things we need to think about right now would be seed supplies and varieties. Don't know a lot about the varieties and what the seed supply, how long that's going to take to get built up. I know there was Enlist seed grown in our area last year, so it might not take too long to get this built up to a pretty big amount and for that technology to really move forward. Both of these herbicides, the dicamba and the 2,4-D, are Group 4 herbicides. So that's a new mode of action that we can use in soybeans. It's not a new herbicide mode of action, obviously, but it is a new mode of action that we can use in soybeans. Specifically good at controlling pigweeds, and you know I've talked many times that we need multiple modes of action to be able to rotate back and forth, and that'll help with herbicide resistance. So hopefully, you know the market, I'm sure, this will all wash out through the market, and we'll see where these 2 herbicide technologies go. But that's the latest on them as of right now. Another thing I want to talk about this month is I know it's probably the time of the year where farmers are doing their planning for the next crop, and one of the things you think about is fertility planning. You know what we're going to do with the fertilizer program for our various crops. This month I want to talk a little bit about the secondary and the micronutrients. Of course, the macronutrients would be nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but sometimes people maybe have a little bad information, maybe some misinformation, don't know fully what to think about and when to use those micronutrients and those secondary nutrients. So I want to talk a little bit about where those fit, where they definitely need to be used, and where maybe they can be used, but where they are not absolutely essential. So I think that's some information that we need on the crops that we grow in our area. Of course, micronutrients are the ones that are required in the least amount, so it doesn't take much of these for a crop to to be sufficient in them. Secondary nutrients are, it's a little more than the micronutrients, but less than the macronutrients. So that's what we're talking about with our secondary and our micronutrients. I'm going to talk about 3 today: 2 micronutrients, zinc and boron, and 1 secondary nutrient, sulfur. Looking at zinc, we use there's a lot of zinc needs in our area. My area is predominantly Jackson, Poinsett, and Cross. with some other work in some fringe counties as well, but those are the three areas that I work quite a bit. A lot of high pH soils in these areas, and that's where we really see the zinc needs come in more than anywhere. Those high pH silt loam soils, which we have a lot of in this area, are predominantly where you're going to benefit from zinc. And rice and corn are the two crops where you're primarily going to benefit from zinc, so that's where we really need to consider our zinc needs. As far as sources, there's several sources. There's just the straight granular zinc, which is very good for soil buildup of zinc if you use these granular products that are straight zinc. There's also a product called Micro Essentials, MESZ. We call that MES pretty commonly. That's a product that's a 12, 40, 10, which 10 sulfur and 1 zinc. This is all in one prill, which is the good thing about that is you can get good distribution with it since it's all in one prill. So that's another source of zinc that can be used and is used commonly in these crops. There's also foliar zinc, which is simply the liquid zinc that is sprayed onto the foliage of the crop after the crop has already emerged, and we can get by usually with lower rates of these since it's getting right on the plant. But that's another source. And then with rice, you've got seed treatment zinc. So several sources of zinc that we can use to get benefits from these crops. Some sources are better than others in specific situations. I've got a 5-minute program here, so I'm not going to get into detail about that. But if you've got questions on which source is going to be better for your particular crop, your particular field, your particular situation, give me a call and we can talk about that and see what's going to be best for you. The other micronutrient I wanted to talk about was boron, and boron is primarily in our area going to be a need in soybeans, and again it's those same soils, those high pH silt loam soils. Boron was really discovered over in Poinsett and Cross counties initially. A lot of needs over there. I remember the first field I saw in Jackson County as county extension agent was out in the Rimmel area, which is some of that extremely high pH, pH of 8 or more in some of those areas. Remember the first time I saw boron deficiency, it was in a field in the Rimmel area. Remember the exact field where it was at and everything. Remember it very well. So again, those are the kind of soils where you're going to benefit primarily from the boron. 2 or 3 sources. Again, granular boron can be applied in the soil, and that's a good source. We sell a product called Aspire, which is a 58% potash and 0.5% boron, so a half a unit boron per 100 pounds, which is adequate generally for the needs in soybeans. The University of Arkansas has got some really good research on Aspire and the benefits of it, and it is a very good source. If you have boron deficiency, if you suspect that and you feel like you need to put boron out there to prevent it, then that's a good source. Also, again, foliar. If you see symptoms out there, sometimes you can recover that somewhat with the foliar, or as a preventative measure, you can put some boron in with your herbicide that you're applying on the young soybeans, and usually that's pretty beneficial as well and does a pretty good job. So again, boron, primarily soybeans. Sulfur is a secondary nutrient, so again we need a little more of it where it's needed. Generally it's required on sandy and sandy loam soils, those permeable soils that leach real readily where the water runs through them quite a bit. That's where we see those sulfur needs arise. Primarily wheat and corn are the crops where we need them, those grass crops in our area. Rice, sometimes needed in rice. Sometimes some people put ammonium sulfate on the rice early to give it a boost. It may or may not be the sulfur that's causing that boost. It may just be the nitrogen, and the fact that ammonium sulfate is such a stable source of nitrogen that if you put it out on wet ground or something like that, it's going to be more stable and a better source of nitrogen a lot of times in those early situations like that. So that may be where that green up's coming at, or in some cases it may be the sulfur. But again, that's used quite a bit early in our rice systems around here. Sometimes we see sulfur deficiency late in the year. If you see some areas kind of yellowing or yellowish brown or something like that, that could be some sulfur issues. And the way I was always taught to tell whether that's likely or not is take a soil probe out in the field, and if that probe goes real easily through the soil, then that shows again you've got that permeable soil and a very good likelihood that that is sulfur. So again, these highly permeable soils, wheat, corn, and sometimes rice. Ammonium sulfate, of course, is a very common source of sulfur. It's 210024. It's very commonly used, a really good source. The MESZ, again, that I mentioned earlier, 10% sulfur, so that's a potential source as well, a good source. And like if you're knifing fertilizer into corn, and a situation like that, you can use that liquid formulation and knife it into the soil, and that's very effective as well. So again, several sources there. Again, primarily wheat and corn, sometimes rice, highly permeable soils are where this is most likely to be a benefit. So these are some things to think about as you plan your fertility program for 2019, specifically with the micronutrients and the secondary nutrients. If you have any questions on any of this, you can give me a call at Farmer Supply Association. My cell number is 870-318-0739. Or you can email me at randyklopeczka@gmail.com. Until next month, this has been the Farmer Supply Association Agriculture Report for January.